think I would have to pick Scream because I think like
Yeah.
Ai, meu Deus! Esqueci de trazer vodka.
Hi, Nanatka. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Renato. I love your background. Your Home Alone background is amazing.
Is a movie entrance,
I
movie
love
theater
it.
entrance. I love the movie. It's so fun, so smart, so subversive. And I love slasher movies. I started my outlet because of the Scream franchise 25 years ago when they were releasing Scream 3. So slasher movies are my favorite. What are your favorite slasher movies?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the original Scream for sure. Like that is, and that was a big touch point for me in this movie, the way that they handled the slash, like the horror, but also the comedy, but also the meta-ness, that how everybody in that movie knew about scary movies. And so for me in this movie, it was the same thing. I wanted Jamie, coming back from 2023 to have all of these references, and be smart about how she tries to communicate what's going on with her. And then also you have to shout out the original Friday the 13th. That's an amazing slasher. And I don't know if you would consider the original Halloween slasher, but I also love that movie because I love so many elements about it, but I particularly love that sequence where Jamie Lee Curtis is walking home from school during the day and Michael Myers is like hiding in the neighborhood. And you see his like point of view of her. It's so scary and it's daytime. Like to make it scary daytime sequence, I was like, this is genius.
And the 80s were amazing. It's my favorite decade because of the movies and the songs.
Yes.
And you get to play with it in the movie, like the different manners. Go knock on the door, stop, this is so rude, or how bullying was different back then. So for you, how challenge was to make jokes about it? And do you think that things got better now?
I think it was very easy to make jokes about it for sure, because I think it was fun to sort of remember how it was. It was only 35 years ago. So, it's our lifetimes, but it was so different. And I think, that was really fun to play around with. I think the thing that I like about now is that we're more self-aware. So I feel like question things more. Whereas like back in the 80s, it was like, okay, well, this is how it is. And like, you go to see a John Hughes movie and you're like, well, that's it. Like that's what a teenager is like. Whereas now it's like, everybody has a little more voice, I think,
What do you think that make the 80s so iconic?
I honestly think it was like that first era that, at least for this story that we were telling, and like for us as like kids, that like the young generation became stars in a way that was almost like, I know there was like musicians that were stars earlier, like the Beatles and Elvis or whatever, but I think like movie star, the Brat Pack from the 80s, like they became these like icons in the moment in a way. So you have these like young 20 something kids, you living this life that we like all wanted to. And I think like MTV also, like the music, like putting songs to video and like having us sort of aspire to that. There's something about like all of those things coming together in, so Madonna, so you not only hear Madonna's music, but then you see the Like a Virgin video and you're like, oh my God, now I gotta go like buy all this stuff or whatever, there's just like kind of, I think the rise of technology, I don't know, it is iconic though.
And what inspired you to combine slasher with comedy in Totally Killer?
It was really, I shot a lot of different versions so I could make sure to walk that right line, so we didn't tip over one or the other. But I honestly think that, I think humor and scares are cousins, because I think they share a lot of similarities. And once we sort of figure that out, so it's all about, setup and payoff. So whether I'm setting up a joke and then paying it off with a laugh, or I'm setting up a scare and, paying it off with like a moment that actually helped us so we can keep the audience off balance, so you're laughing and then suddenly it's like, oh, the killer's here, and so you never really know what's going to happen. And I think that hopefully creates some tension for the audience.
And I love this Sweet 16 killer. I think he's so iconic already. If you could cross over Totally Killer with other slasher franchise, which one would you pick and why?
Oh my gosh, that is a great one. I mean, I think I would have to pick Scream because I think like such an amazing because everybody is so aware in all in both franchises, at least, you know, in 2023. I think, you know, and then Ghostface is such an iconic mask. And then the Sweet 16 killer, you know, I really thought it was interesting when we were talking about that mask design, the idea of like a handsome man being terrifying. And so when our Tony Gardner and our mask team like started to pull like all these 80s references from like 80s heartthrobs. So it's like Rob Lowe, you know, Kiefer Sutherland, Dolph Lundgren, and they like made, you know, with his like big smiling teeth and his like earring from Lost Boys. And so I just think like that element with like a straight up like with Ghostface, I think like those two together would be pretty iconic.
And there's any other slasher movie, slasher franchise who would like to direct a movie?
About a Jason one maybe, or I was thinking about like Megan, you know, because the producers of this movie also did Megan, and we were talking about Megan 2, and I was like, it'd be fun to kind of have Megan go a little slashery, you know, and like Megan 3 or something like that, you know, like.
Mas essa não é a moral da história.